everybody. Welcome. Thanks for sticking around. We are talking tuning technical capabilities to meet the needs of future MPEs. My panelists' names, titles, right up there on the big screen. Let me give you a little context before we kick things off. The modernization of national defense is in a period of rapid advancement that binds partners and coalitions together through data like never before. The path forward relies on what DoD calls MPEs, or Mission Partner Environments. So, what are MPEs, Eric?
So, Mission Partner Environment is a term that's used to describe, be used to describe a single mission partner network, but more frequently, it's used to describe a collection of mission partner networks used in kind of a collective manner, similar to an enterprise. And so these mission partner networks can be used for just general information sharing with our foreign partners. We can use it for intelligence sharing. We can use it for exercises. We can use it for operations. We can use it for combined C2. And traditionally, we've built these, a single network to support a single releasability or information sharing agreement. But now with the introduction of zero trust and data centricity, we're seeing an opportunity to flatten and to reduce the total number of mission partner networks that are out there and get to persistent, singular SecRel capability that the warfighters can employ.
When we met late last year in Hawaii, Indo-Pacific Command and their big conference down there, and when we were talking before we went on the air, we talked about one of the consistent challenges with MPEs is matching technical capabilities with DoD policies. How are the stakeholders starting to better address some of those challenges?
Well, I think the technology piece is growing. I think understanding of what zero trust and data centricity are, more and more senior leaders, more and more doers understand the power and are moving forward. I think there's two areas that really need to be addressed to enable them to move at a rapid pace. And that's a clear accreditation path to a SecRel, a data-centric SecRel network. What are the criteria that are going to be used to make determinations about the security of zero trust enabled data-centric environments where we're trying to use digital applications to separate the information at the different releasability levels. And I think the second is the cloud policy. Current cloud security guidance, commercial cloud security guidance, lays out IL6 is secret and below information. And it goes on to say mission partners are supported in that environment. It also goes on to clarify that in this instance, they're speaking about other organizations, not the DoD, other US entities. And it specifies that foreign mission partners will be addressed in later versions. So I think we're at the point now where we really need to be able to house these mission partner networks in cloud environments and leverage some of that capability for the COCOMs and for the warfighter. We just need to get the policy ironed out about what those appropriate security control measures are going to be.
Hans, let's dig into that data sharing. I mean, for our audience, Eric is former Special Operations Forces. He's the technical guy on stage here. He had a big hand in building the sort of base of MPEs. But the data sharing piece, Hans, why is that so difficult to do in an international context?
Thank you. I think one of the things that we see in our support to the Department of Defense, we have actually been providing intel sharing for over 20 years. One of the largest capabilities out there is called BICES, the Battlefield Intelligence Collection and Exploitation System. That was actually the component for the U.S. has the ability to communicate with our partners around the world and provide intelligence data. And so the one thing we've always seen, it's never really the technology is the limiting factor. It's really more of the policies, the laws of the local nations, and those type of things. That's where the problem resides. One country might allow certain data to reside on their networks. Another country, you cannot put other data on it. And then as you're trying to share, you have to keep all of that into account. So all of those policies really slow down the advancement of being able to say, well, let's put everything into the cloud, and then we can all just attach to that and share that information. Unfortunately, you just can't based on all those requirements.
If I could ask a follow-up, what about training? Where does training come into the equation there?
There's training, I think there's, if you're talking training of the policies or just training of the system at large?
Training of the system at large.
Well, actually, that's one of the things we do provide, is as part of our support to the BICES contract, we do provide training to all the different entities. So we have places around the world where we actually conduct that training to actually be able to show how to use the systems, how to pass the data back and forth, what information you're trying to do. Are you trying to do chat, data, voice, email, you name it, and show them how they could be able to communicate. Some of the other things, as you've seen tensions rise around the world, this capability is providing information to be able to move at capabilities that never were before. So that's really some of the excitement about what we're seeing. But the training can be done in many different facets to include across the web, in person, you name it.
We've been focusing on international. Narrow the aperture. Let's just talk about DoD specifically. Are the requirements similar across the DoD landscape?
It's interesting because as our requirement to be able to share information across our coalition partners, we can't fight this fight anymore as one entity. It really has to be a joint solution, which not only the different entities across the Department of Defense, so the different services, but then now you also have our industry partners. You got Five Eyes, you have NATO, you have all these others, and how do you share all that? So that's kind of as it's expanding, as we're seeing those different rules and requirements from each of the countries, but then they bring everybody together at kind of more of a NATO, at a Five Eyes level, and talk about how can we be able to break down these barriers.
Big initiative, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, if the MPE concept works, if it's done right, what does it enable DoD? What does it enable the international community to do that it could not do before?
Really, it's about the speed of information. Before, when you had, especially intelligence data, because of the restrictions you'd have of being able to pass this through certain networks, at some points it might be you had to collect this information and hand deliver it to another location. So the ability now to be able to communicate across networks allows you to give the speed of information. So if someone needs information on a target, they can be able to get that rapidly versus waiting, and at that time things change, things have moved. So that speed is critical. But I think, Eric, to talk a little bit more about what you see as kind of how the technology is moving forward, what are some of those?
Yeah, I would say two other areas where the warfighter is really going to gain as they shift to a data-centric commission partner environment is agility and persistence. The way that the data is separated inside of these data-centric environments lends itself to rapid change. We can make changes very quickly to how the information is shared across the entire enterprise. And what that allows for is, as commanders experience a change or determine or identify a requirement for change, whether it's adding a partner that hasn't been part of the coalition, has some capability or information to share, and we need to bring them in, we can change these information sharing policies on the fly. So it gives them, that commander, the agility to adjust his environment to meet the needs at that moment. And then I would say the other is persistence. So if we create a flattened SecRel environment that is agile, that will meet the needs of the commander in peacetime and in war, then we don't have to continue to build new like we've done in the past. Whereas in the past we had a multinational exercise, build a new network, execute the exercise, tear the network down. A contingency operation kicks off, build a new network, bring in partners, finish that contingency operation, tear the network down. If we have the ability to leverage the technology internal to that network, make the changes necessary to allow for appropriate information sharing based on whatever mission is needed at the time, that capability persists. the mission command systems that they build to support those different operations will remain, and they can build on that to execute in peacetime and then use that same system to execute their wartime mission.
Fascinating topic, great discussion with Eric Tapp, Hans Hollister. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.